Hey, coin collectors and history nerds, welcome back to The History Mirror, the channel where we explore fascinating coins from around the world. Today we're diving into a special piece of American currency, the 1983 USA quarter dollar. This coin holds a unique place in numismatic history, and if you've got one lying around, you might want to stick around to learn about its circulated value and what makes it so interesting. Exercised in its symbols, the quarter dollar has a bewildering effect on those around it. Let's jump right in. First, let's get to know the coin. The 1983 USA quarter dollar is part of the Washington Quarter Series, which began back in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. On the obverse side, you'll find the iconic bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The reverse features the majestic image of a bald eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing both strength and peace. Now, here's a fun fact. These quarters were struck in the middle of the copper-nickel clad era, meaning they're made of an outer layer of copper-nickel over a pure copper core. No silver here, but that doesn't mean they're not valuable. So why is the 1983 quarter special? One reason is that in 1983, the U.S. Mint didn't produce uncirculated coin sets for collectors. This makes finding high-quality examples of the 1983 quarter much harder today. Most of these coins were released directly into circulation and saw heavy use, which means they're often found with significant wear and tear. If you've got a 1983 quarter in great condition, you might be holding on to something pretty valuable. All right, let's talk numbers. The circulated value of a 1983 quarter depends on its condition. A typical heavily circulated coin is worth its face value, just 25 cents. But here's the kicker. If your coin is in better than average condition, its value starts to climb. Now, for those wondering about errors and varieties, some 1983 quarters have been found with minting errors, like double dies or off-center strikes. These can push the value up significantly, often into the $50 to $100 range or more, depending on the rarity and type of error. Wondering if your 1983 quarter has collector value? Here are a few tips. Coins from 1983 were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver coins in high grades are especially sought after. One item costs $183 but clearly lends itself to the notion that this value was of high grade or special effect. Coins with sharp details on Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering are more valuable. Use gloves or hold the coin by its edges to avoid adding fingerprints or oils. For high-grade coins, professional grading by services like PCGS or NGC can increase their marketability and help you get the best price. The 1983 USA quarter dollar is a perfect example of how even modern coins can hold hidden value. Footnote: whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, it's always worth checking your pocket change for treasures like this one. The 1983 USA quarter dollar is part of the Washington Quarter Series, which was first introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. This series replaced the standing Liberty coins and has since become one of the most recognizable coins in American numismatics. Below is a breakdown of the key historical points for the 1983 quarter. The Washington quarter was designed by sculptor John Flanagan, featuring a profile of George Washington on the obverse. The reverse showcases an eagle with spread wings, clutching arrows, and an olive branch. This design remained in use until 1998, when the 50-state quarters series began. In 1983, the U.S. Mint faced high demand for circulating coins due to economic activity, including purchasing them at quarter prices with so-called bottom prices, which back then consisted of 100 kilograms, or 230 tons. Collectors in 1982 or 1983. This decision significantly impacted the availability of pristine examples of 1983 quarters. Most coins entered circulation directly, where they were used extensively and became worn over time. As a result, well-preserved 1983 quarters are relatively scarce compared to quarters from other years. The 1983 quarter is part of the copper-nickel-clad series, which began in 1965 after the U.S. Mint transitioned away from silver coinage. Metal composition outer layers. Copper-nickel alloy. Core. Pure copper weight 5.67 grams. Diameter 24.3 pounds. This clad design was introduced to conserve precious metals like silver, which were becoming too expensive for everyday coinage. The lack of collector sets in 1983 makes high-grade examples of this coin particularly desirable among numismatists. Coins that manage to escape heavy circulation and retain their original luster are prized finds today. Additionally, error coins from this year, such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, or coins with misaligned dies, have drawn significant interest from collectors. These errors add a layer of uniqueness to an otherwise common coin. The 1983 USA quarter dollar is a symbol of its time, produced during the economic recovery. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of coin collecting, specifically looking at the 1965 United States quarter dollar. We'll explore its history, design, and most importantly, its value in circulation today. So grab a seat, coin enthusiasts, because this is going to be an exciting journey. Let's rewind to 1965. The mid-60s were a time of change for U.S. coinage. Before 1965, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, which gave them intrinsic value due to the precious metal content. But rising silver prices meant it cost more to make these coins than their face value. To address this, the U.S. Mint made a big change. They removed silver entirely from quarters in 1965, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. This decision marked the start of the modern quarter era. The 1965 quarter was the first year of this new copper-nickel design, making it historically significant for collectors. Now, let's talk about the design. The obverse features George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. This iconic portrait has graced the quarter since 1932. Flip it over, and on the reverse you'll see an eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and an olive branch, a classic symbol of strength and peace. Even though saying the 1965 quarter's composition is what sets it apart from earlier coins. Instead of being silver, it's a combination of a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel. What about the value of the 1965 quarter in circulation today? Well, because it contains no silver, its melt value is relatively low, basically just the value of its metal content, which is about 5 to 6 cents. However, its real worth lies in its condition and collector interest. A standard circulated 1965 quarter is worth around 25 to 50 cents, depending on where. But if you have one in uncirculated condition or with unique errors, it could fetch a higher price. Speaking of errors, some 1965 quarters are worth significantly more due to minting mistakes. For example, there are rare cases where a 1965 quarter was mistakenly struck on a silver planchet meant for pre-1965 coins. These errors can sell for thousands of dollars at auctions. If you're lucky enough to spot one of these, you could have a hidden treasure in your pocket change. Look for signs like a silver appearance or weigh the coin. It should weigh about 6.25 grams instead of the usual 5.67 grams. To determine the value of your 1965 quarter, start by checking its condition. Coins with...
If you think you have an error coin, consider getting it professionally graded. Always handle your coins carefully and store them in protective cases to maintain their value. Remember, the better the condition, the higher the potential value, especially if it's uncirculated or an error coin. So, there you have it, a closer look at the 1965 United States quarter dollar. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting, this coin is a great piece of history to add to your collection. And who knows? That old quarter in your pocket could be worth more than you think. Before 1965, U.S. dimes, quarters, and half dollars were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. These coins not only had face value but also contained intrinsic value due to their silver content. By the early 1960s, the rising price of silver created a significant challenge. People began hoarding silver coins as their metal value exceeded their face value. This hoarding led to a widespread shortage of coins in circulation, disrupting everyday transactions. In response to this crisis, the U.S. government, under President Lyndon B. Johnson, passed the Coinage Act of 1965. This legislation removed silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a more economical copper-nickel clad composition. The half-dollar silver content was reduced to 40%, but even this was later eliminated by 1971. The 1965 quarter was the first U.S. quarter dollar produced with the new copper-nickel clad composition. This new design consisted of, this innovation allowed coins to retain a similar appearance and durability to the earlier silver quarters while drastically reducing production costs. The transition to clad coinage required significant changes at the U.S. Mint. To meet demand and address the coin shortage, the Mint, over 1.8 billion 1965 quarters were minted. This high production number ensured widespread availability and established the quarter as a cornerstone of U.S. coinage. To discourage hoarding and reduce